It was the first stock car to break 200 miles per hour and the ultimate game changer in NASCAR history. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona, with its massive rear wing and pointed nose, wasn't just built to race, it was built to dominate. Designed to slice through the air and leave the competition behind, this winged warrior shattered records and rewrote the rules of stock car racing forever. Today, it's one of the most valuable muscle cars ever, with a fully loaded HEMI Daytona selling for a staggering $3.3 million at auction. But what made this car so fast, and why was it banned from NASCAR? Let's find out. But first, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. NASCAR in the late 1960s was a battleground. Big names like Ford, Chevrolet, and Dodge, they weren't just building cars, they were building legends. Racing back then wasn't as standardized as it is today. The cars you saw flying around the track, they were based on real production models, one you could actually buy from a dealership. It was time when automakers pushed limits, tweaked aerodynamics and horsepower to gain even the slightest advantage. And in 1969, Dodge was ready to shake things up in a big way. Dodge had been struggling to keep up with Ford's dominance on the track. The 1968 Dodge Charger 500, which was supposed to bring Dodge to the front, just couldn't compete with the sleek, wind-cutting design of the Ford Torino Talladega. Dodge knew they needed something radical, something that could break through the competition. That's when they introduced a game changer, the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona. This muscle car was built with one goal: to win NASCAR races. And to do that, Dodge had to make some bold changes. If you've ever seen a Daytona, you know it's impossible to miss. The giant 23-inch rear wing and pointed nose cone, they weren't just for looks, they were carefully designed to slice through the air and keep the car stable at high speeds. So, why did it look so different from other cars? NASCAR rules at the time required manufacturers to produce at least 500 street-legal versions of any race car they wanted to compete with. This meant Dodge had to sell the Daytona to the public, even though it was truly built for the track. Only 503 units were made, making it a rare and valuable collector's item today. But back in the day, some dealerships had trouble selling them because of their wild design. The long nose made parking tricky, and the huge wing wasn't exactly practical for everyday driving. Some dealers even converted Daytonas back to regular Chargers just to move them off the lot. Under the hood, the Daytona was built for speed. The standard engine was the powerful 440 Magnum V8, producing 375 horsepower. But for those who wanted even more power, Dodge offered an optimal 426 HEMI V8. Only 70 Daytonas were fitted with the legendary HEMI, making them even more rare and valuable today. The car could be paired with either a 4-speed manual transmission or the 3-speed automatic TorqueFlite 727, both designed to handle the power and torque of the big V8 engines. On the track, the Daytona proved its worth almost immediately. It won its very first race, the 1969 Talladega 500, with Buddy Baker behind the wheel. This victory gave Dodge the boost they needed to stay in the fight against Ford. The Daytona wasn't just winning races, it was setting records. In March of 1970, at Talladega Superspeedway, Buddy Baker drove a Daytona to an unheard-of speed of 200.447 miles per hour, making it the first NASCAR car to break the 200 miles per hour barrier. That speed was a massive milestone in racing history, and it cemented the Daytona's place in the record books. The Daytona didn't just perform well in NASCAR, it also found success in other racing series like the USAC and ARCA circuits. It won 2 NASCAR races in 1969 and added 4 more wins in 1970. Its successor, the 1970 Plymouth Superbird, continued the winning streak, taking home 8 victories in its debut year. But the incredible speed and aerodynamic advantages of these cars were too much for NASCAR to handle. By the end of the 1970 season, new rules were put in place to ban the use of aero cars with engines larger than 305 cubic inches, effectively ending the Daytona's dominance on the track. Dodge engineers had pulled out all the stops to make the Daytona as fast and as stable as possible. The aerodynamic modifications, they weren't just for show. The pointed nose cone, that helped reduce drag, allowing the car to cut through the air more effectively. The massive rear wing, it wasn't just an eye-catcher. It provided critical downforce to keep the car glued to the track at high speeds. Without it, the car would become unstable and difficult to control. Other unique features included a flush-mounted rear window cap to reduce wind resistance and cooling scoops on the fenders to help keep the brakes from overheating during long races. The Daytona's design may have been radical, but it was built on a solid foundation. It started life as a Dodge Charger 500 before being shipped off to an off-site facility where the aerodynamic parts were added. The Daytona retained the heavy-duty suspension and the brake systems from the Charger RT, making it a serious contender both on and off the track. While the Daytona may have been a racing legend, it wasn't exactly a hit with the general public. The long aerodynamic body made it difficult to drive and park in everyday situations, and the $4,600 price tag, that was steep for its time. Many buyers opted for more practical muscle cars, leaving some dealerships struggling to sell their stock. But today, the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona is more than just a muscle car. It's a legend, a symbol of speed and power, one of the most valuable classic cars in the world. The proof? A fully loaded HEMI-powered Daytona just sold for a jaw-dropping $3.3 million at Mecum's Monterey 2024 auction. That's more than double the previous record for this car, showing how highly collectors value these winged warriors today. So, why did this particular Daytona fetch such an eye-popping price? It all comes down to rarity, history, and the incredible list of options it carries. Dodge built 503 Daytonas in 1969 just to meet NASCAR's rules, but only 70 of them came with the legendary 426 HEMI V8. Of those, just 22 were equipped with the desirable 4-speed manual transmission. But this one, it's even more special. This Daytona is one of a kind, the most highly optioned HEMI Daytona known to exist. The original buyer, he went all out, checking nearly every box available at the time. It came in a stunning F8 dark green metallic exterior, paired with the unique C6G green vinyl interior, making it the only one of its kind in this color combo. The matching steel wheels and black accents on the rear quarters and spoiler give it a striking, aggressive look that stands out even today. But it's not just about looks. Under the hood, the 426 HEMI engine, known for its brute power, packs 425 horsepower and is paired with an A833 4-speed manual transmission. This Daytona was also ordered with the Super Track Pack, a performance package that included a Dana 6410 rear axle, a Sure Grip limited slip differential, and heavy-duty cooling features. Speaking of cooling, the car was optioned with the N51 Max cooling package, which added a 26-inch radiator, a 7-blade fan, and a power steering cooler. These features were crucial for keeping the powerful engine running smoothly under the intense conditions of high-speed racing. Inside, the Daytona was loaded with top features for its time. It had factory-installed power windows P31, a 6-way adjustable driver's seat C62, and an A01 light package, which provided extra convenience with additional lighting inside the cabin. The car also featured the C16 wood-grain center console, a Chrysler solid-state AM radio with an 8-track player, and even a locking gas cap for added security. Despite all these upgrades, this car wasn't always in pristine condition. Over the years, it faced wear and tear like many classics do, but thanks to a full restoration with a focus on preserving the original sheet metal, it now looks as if it just rolled off the assembly line. The attention to detail during the restoration process, it ensured that it kept its authenticity while bringing it back to showroom quality. The demand for Daytonas has skyrocketed in recent years too, and this sale proves it. Back in May 2022, the same car sold for $1.31 million at Mecum's Indy auction. Then, in January 2023, another Daytona, also with a HEMI engine, fetched $1.43 million, setting a new record at the time. But nothing compares to the staggering $3.3 million sale in 2024, which smashed all previous records. It was the first Daytona to break the $2 million and $3 million marks in a single sale. What makes this price increase even more impressive, though, is how it compares to other legendary muscle cars. While the Daytona isn't the most expensive muscle car ever sold, it's close. The record still belongs to a 1971 Plymouth HEMI Cuda 4-speed convertible, which sold for $3.85 million in 2014. Still, the Daytona holds its place as one of the most iconic and valuable Mopars ever made. The auction scene plays a huge role in these rising values. Mecum's Monterey event, known for its high-end European exotics, isn't usually where you'd expect to see a classic American muscle car take center stage, but this Daytona defied expectations. The wealthy crowd, many of whom came from tech-rich Silicon Valley, saw the value in this rare piece of American automotive history and drove the bidding to new heights. Classic muscle cars, especially those with a connection to NASCAR, have always had a special place in collectors' hearts, but the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona is in a league of its own. It represents a time when automakers pushed the limits of speed and aerodynamics, creating cars that weren't just fast, they were revolutionary. This Daytona's record-breaking sale is also a sign of how the market for these cars has changed. Back in the day, they were hard to sell. The long nose and massive wing made them impractical for daily driving, and the high price tag kept buyers away. Some dealers even modified them back into regular Chargers to get them off the lot. But today, collectors are willing to pay top dollar for the very features that once made them tough to sell. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona might not have been the easiest car to live with, but it was built for one thing: speed. It changed the game in NASCAR, pushing the limit of what stock cars could do and forcing rule changes that still impact racing today. So, what do you think? Which legendary car should we dive into next? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into automotive history.